Okay, my name is Peter, recovered alcoholic. Grateful to be alive and sober, and part of a sacred place called Alcoholics Anonymous. Again, thank the group for having me, and Sheldon for service, and for all of you for showing up here on Tuesday. It's a cool place to be on a Tuesday. My wife and I were kind of going over our calendar on the way here, and it goes fast. 2 more weeks and you kick me out until next time. They really go fast. I'm doing one of these in Boca, and I'll be done in a couple of weeks as well. It's unbelievable. I get to travel often, and you hit the airport on a Friday, the anticipation of a conference, and next thing you know, you're back in the airport and it's Sunday. So I really enjoy getting to meet a lot of folks I don't see that often. So thank you for having me. I do have a home group, No Problems, Just Solutions in Boca Raton on Wednesday night. And I do have a sponsor. His name is Bob Lozano out of St. Paul, Minnesota. And I sponsor a dozen men currently. And I'm pretty active in Alcoholics Anonymous. And I kind of like it like that. It keeps me out of my own way. And my wife and I do a lot of service, primarily sponsoring people. So it's a great way to go. What's on my heart, because we're talking about the 11th step, and something came to me earlier in prayer, and I said, I don't want to talk about that, and I guess I have to talk about it, because one of the things I've learned when it comes to a spiritual walk or even a religious walk is that I need to participate, cooperate, and cultivate. If not, I'm just checking boxes. And I'm praying, but I'm not listening. God gives me experiences, but I'm not talking about it. And so part of my participate is when God puts something on my heart to participate with him. He's involved in my life. I need to get involved with God. And to cooperate when he nudges me to do something, to talk about something, to go somewhere, to go to a meeting I've never been to before, or talk to that person in the corner of the room that no one's talking to, they're avoiding him, and that little nudge goes, go talk to him, or roll down the window and feed a homeless person because the intuitive voices go do that. That's cooperating, cultivating. I need to talk about this stuff, even to a newcomer. God's not going to scare them out. I can't deny the solution. I like to get around like-minded folks. And folks who are interested in this power called God, in this work, and what it does is strengthen me, gives me soul food. And a number of years ago, I've shared this story a few times, my wife and I were headed to Sweden for a conference, and my wife's never been out of the country, and was at Switzerland, one of those places. I've been there a few times, and so we're off to the airport. And we fly from Fort Lauderdale, and we have to connect in Newark Airport and go across the river. And, Newark Airport is not exactly the training ground for spiritual growth. We get there, and we're flying at night. Most of those flights will leave New Jersey 6 o'clock and fly through the night. And we can't find our gate. We're in the international part of the airport. We can't find our gate. There's no one there. The air conditioner wasn't really working, so it's muggy. It's uncomfortable. Can't find a restaurant. I got all this stuff going on. And I start to think about me. And I'm getting frustrated. I'm uncomfortable. I already got, if you travel a lot, you wear the airport all over you. And as soon as you get home, you got to shower and get it off you. I didn't even start yet, and I feel like the airport's all over me. And it's muggy and it's ugly. And I'm thinking, I got about a 7.5-hour flight to get where I have to go. I must be nuts. And then the narrative started like, what are you, like Mr. AA now? You have to really go that far to talk about the big book. They have their own people there. Call them, email them, text them, and lie and don't go. And I look over and I see my wife, who's white as a ghost, and she says, honey, I'm afraid to travel this far. And I said, I don't know if I want to go either. So we're in this place. This is what the mind does. And so Marion says, let's pray. I either pray or become prey. So we prayed right in the middle of the airport. Now, when you pray in the middle of Newark Airport Terminal, you're not going to get, the wave. So we closed our eyes, we held hands, and we began to pray. And when we got done, Marion recited something, one line in particular. And when we got done, we opened our eyes. And we were asking God for guidance and strength and courage to do this. And Marion was reciting something out of Scripture. And we opened up our eyes, and there was a woman, maybe as far as that wall right there, looking at us, a strange woman, and smiling. Now, normally I would say if you're in Newark Airport, go to the next terminal. If someone's smiling at you, don't know. And she made her way over to us, and I started to get uncomfortable. And she says, "It's so nice to see people praying in public." I took a deep breath. And we started this conversation. Marion really initiated the conversation. And this woman, we told her what we're doing. We're going for an AA thing. She had family in Al-Anon. She had family in AA. And she was going there to see her dying dad. And we got to talking about God and recovery and life. And she was a devout Christian. I didn't know this. And she asked us during this conversation, "May I ask what you guys were praying?" And the mantra Marion kept saying is, "I can do all things through Christ who strengthens me." At that moment, she kind of backed up. She stopped talking. She says, "Oh my God. This is participate, cooperate, and cultivate on this woman's part." She says, "I was getting dressed this morning, and there's a bracelet on my nightstand that I haven't worn in forever, and something told me to wear it. Participate, cooperate, and cultivate." Yeah? And she says, "So I put it on. And now I know why." She took it off and handed it to us. It's on our altar at home. And what's inscripted, what's written inside the bangle is this: "I can do all things through Christ who strengthens me." At this point, I turn into Rambo. I'm going to Switzerland, man, come hell or high water. Marion had, her face was like blood was circulating again. And so we talked a little bit further, and we asked what seat she was in. She told us, "Well, we got a really long flight. Once the bell goes off, let's hang out." Great, that's what we're going to do. Her name was Jeanette. And we saw her board. We boarded, and I fell asleep. And I woke up. I had this deep sleep. Marion had the strangest dream. Like the carpenter was telling me, "I'm sending you an angel tonight." I said, "I don't know what that means." I didn't put it together. So Marion says, "Let me go find Jeanette." We saw her get on the plane. We spoke to her at the terminal. We have a bangle she gave us. And Marion goes to the seat she was assigned, and there was someone else sitting there. So I said, "Well, maybe she's in the ladies' room, mixed up the seat. Let's wait a few minutes." Marion takes another tour through the plane. Marion's alcoholic, so she's looking in overhead compartments and under seats, all over. And she came back 15 minutes later. She's not on this plane. She's definitely not in first class. We get off the plane, we finally land, and we're stalking. We got off the plane really early, and we're looking for Jeanette. She never got off the plane. We saw her get on the plane. She never deplaned. We spoke to her at the terminal. She gave us a bracelet. We went to this conference and had a blast. It was one of the highlights of our traveling. It was absolutely wonderful. What happened to this woman? Maybe we missed her. Maybe she got off the plane. We just missed her. That's really possible. But if you live in the world of the spirit and you hear our stories over and over and over again, anyone who's been around here a little while has a story like that. That God does send his angels to get work done. He will use people, places, and things to get us from point A to point B. And so what I reconcile this with is God sent Mary and I an angel that day. Because I was bailing. I was really getting uncomfortable. I listened to the narratives in the head, and Mary never left the country before, so we almost ran on self-will for a while, and God got right in the middle of it, and we participated, cooperated, and cultivated, because I'm talking about it now. It's that important. And so very often I get a nudge. It's that intuitiveness that we can rely upon. There's an author, Eckhart Tolle, he says, you don't need your mind, so get rid of it. If we rely upon intuitiveness, which is coming from the soul, which is God, it's always right. It knows where to go, what to say, and what to do. I'll always travel light. But what makes my day travel heavy is I am programmed to listen to this mind. And I believe my mind more than I believe God, who's infinite love, infinite mercy. I'll listen to my mind, which is so small and so limited. God's plans are always beyond mine, but I'll listen to me first. I'll figure this out. I know what I need to do. I got it. No, I don't. And God is using people, places, and things to point me that way, and I still go that way. There's a great joke about the alcoholic who opens up the door and gets hit on the head. And the next day opens up the same door and gets hit on the head. And the third day opens up the door and gets hit on the head. The fourth day opens up the door, there's no one there. The alcoholic goes looking for the guy who hit him on the head. This is how I operate. So I'm very grateful. Now, that was a number of years ago, and since then, God has given me little things and sometimes monumental things, as far as my point of view goes, on how to operate. And sometimes it happens even during a meditation. Sometimes it happens when I'm done with my morning practice. An hour later, I'm having a cup of coffee or reading something, and there's something gets put on my heart. And I don't have to write it down, because it's inscripted in there. I don't have to write it down. It becomes part of who I be. And when the being is right, the doing is right. But I need to participate, cooperate, and cultivate with this power called God. He will use everything. He's always beyond my cleverest plans. And what I think is good, God is insufficient in the eyes of God. I can be immersed in what I need to do for me, in the direction I want to go on, because that's the journey. I need to climb the corporate ladder. I need to make a name for myself. I need to do all these things, and I'm going in the wrong direction because God has me this way. So I don't hear. I don't see. I'm actually blinded by my own light. And sometimes we get them confused. Is it God or is it me? I don't know. And that's when we pause and seek counsel. Anytime I have to pause when I'm agitated or doubtful is because I'm trying to determine the outcome. I'm trying to control something, and it's not working, and I'm pushing up against God's will, so I become agitated and doubtful, and I call a sponsor. He says, no, that's not it. Go this way. Okay. Reluctantly, I go, and I get there. It works out great, and then I take credit for it. That's how I do it. One of the things I hope never happens to me is that the things I get in AA don't keep me from AA. Because that happens. We get the relationship, a little bit of money, nice little job, the AA car, goes 0 to 60 in 2 weeks, one of those things. And, you get popular in AA. And then we join the gym because you have to look good. We're in South Florida, work on the tan and get all those things. And suddenly we're working a lot, and then we got the girlfriend. So now we're in stalking mode, and I don't have time for home group. I see it happen all the time. AA couple meets on AA campus, and they're going to meetings, and they're showing everyone they're in love. And then you don't see them, and they make a guest appearance 5 years later with the baby. And they go back to their civilian life. Maybe they were never alcoholic. Well, they wind up in divorce court coming back here. I just came back from a run. Nothing should get in the way of my recovery. That's just for me. That's been my experience. And I put AA first before a lot of things, a lot of important things, like events. I still participate with family members all the time, but AA must come first for me the way God must come first. And there was a time in my journey where I would repeat what my sponsor said, because he's the sponsor. I want to be like the sponsor. I want to dress like the sponsor. He's my hero. I have him out on a pedestal, which isn't bad at the beginning. It's really okay to do, looking up to someone with reverence, because if they're healthy, we'll do what they do, and then we start to learn everyone has clay feet. But I was going somewhere with this. Lord have mercy, just drew a blank on this. It'll come back to me. Something about a sponsor. My morning practice has changed a lot. Someone was speaking to me earlier about this. My morning practice has changed a whole bunch. It looks nothing like it did when I first got to Alcoholics Anonymous. Because I did the simple prayer, God, please keep me sober, and that night, thank you for keeping me sober. That was pretty much about it. And I was really nervous about praying because I had done so much damage. I would think I got the audacity to go ask God for a favor right now. I can't do this, but I did because the old timers told me to do it. And I want to be like them. I want to emulate them. And then I remember I knew nothing about meditation, and it says on awakening. There's a whole practice to do, and part of that praying and meditating. I didn't know anything about this. Now, when Bill put this together, he didn't talk about Eastern philosophy. A lot of us incorporate breathing and oming, and that's not what Bill was talking about. But that's what I've done, and it has been a tremendous help to me. But I didn't know how to do it at the beginning. And I got into reading books in the morning. You know, someone gave me 24 hours a day, the upper room, and all these little meditation books. And so I was gobbling them up and reading a page each morning. You know, read a page and then move on to the next book, and read a page and move on to the next book, all part of the stuff. And I'm thinking at some point that if I do this, I'm going to have a good day. And if I don't do it, I'm going to have a bad day. And that's far from the truth. I need to participate in the day with God. But I got into worshiping now all these books. And I got into lighting sage. That was the thing we came in contact with. A lot of guys were burning sage in the morning, so I went out and bought sage. It looks like weed when you get it. Oh, yeah. And, so I'm burning sage, and it's like a pot house going on with all this smoke. And then I got CD tapes. I'm playing the CDs. It was cassette tapes. I got meditation music. I got sage going. Now we got to get candles, so I got some candles going. Right? I got all this stuff going on, and that candle's going out. I need to get another candle of sage. Fan the sage, and I'm orchestrating this whole. I'm conducting a band. I don't like this meditation song, so I'm, speeding it up. And I spend 20 minutes in the morning doing this. Now I'm too tired to meditate. I need to go to work. One morning I was in the car, and I get to the light, and I says, "Oh, I forgot one of the books to read. I got to go home." And that's when that little intuitive voice says, "You stopped worshiping me. You started worshiping that." Wow. And that was the day I stopped reading in the morning for a long time. I just stopped all reading. My job was to saddle up next to God and ask him, "What you have for me today? I'm ready to go." I'm reporting for work. That has evolved. My meditations at the very beginning were about 2 minutes. I was put on a timer. I didn't know how to meditate. I didn't know about posture and breath. I didn't even know what reflection meant or communing meant. And all these things came into my 11-step practice. It has enriched my life. It has enriched my soul because I look for soul food, try to cultivate that. And the very first time I had this young lady teach me how to meditate. And she put me on a timer, and she talked about how important posture and breath was. And every book I've studied with meditation talks about posture and breath. I can't be on the phone or Facebook or listening to music. Just dump the music, she told me. It's in the way. At the beginning, some of us used to get rid of it. It's you and the Lord. That's it. Whatever your conception of God is. In the sacred silence, we go into silence to hear and darkness to see. Let God do what God's got to do. And there's been many, many times in meditation, I felt like nothing came out of it. I didn't get a vision. I didn't get intuitive voice, nothing. And I forgot that what I'm doing is working out in the soulful gym. I got another 20 minutes of meditation. I got soul food. We pay so much attention to the external, how I dress and what my body looks like. Work out, break sweats, go two a days, eat this, don't eat that. But what about the soul? It's starving to death. And I pay no attention to it. That thing is eternal. The body's going to go away one day. This thing is eternal. And I pay no attention to it. It's too cumbersome. I got to get to the gym. Well, great, get to the gym and work out. Take care of the body while it's alive, but what about the soul? Because if my soul is right, I will travel light. If the soul is, in the sense, disconnected from God, I'm jammed up all the time with a great physique. My wife thinks I'm nuts.
She may be right.
She may be right. So I started with 2 minutes of meditation with no distractions. This is before social media. I didn't have a computer back then, nor did I have a cell phone. So it was easier for me. Young folks coming in today have lots of distractions. Their decisions are based on what Facebook says. And I feel bad for them. There's a lot of noise in the head, a lot more noise than I came in with. Social skills are lacking because I'm staring at a phone and then out of focus. That's just the way they've been brought up. And then they land here. We're talking about sacred silence. That's too much silence. 2 minutes is way too much. I got to check my phone. You know how many of these talks I've done? And right in the front row, I got 5 people just flipping through their phone. They don't even realize they're doing it. No. So I learned how to sit in posture and breath, how important that was. This is all after prayer and no more reading. And 2 minutes became 3 minutes. And 3 minutes became 5 minutes. Well, one of the very first things I touched was how noisy my head is. It's like the air conditioner's on really loud and you're trying to talk on the phone and you finally realize how loud it is. You go over and shut it off and go, wow, that was loud. Or when a truck comes by, or when those trains go by, you got to raise your voice for someone to hear you. Then they go away. So, oh, good, we can talk normal now. That's the noise in my head that I touched, and it was very uncomfortable. It was hard for me to sit for 2 or 3 or 4 or 5 minutes because there's a million narratives going on that I got so used to them I didn't even hear them anymore. They were just there. It actually became painful, it was uncomfortable how much more of this I got to go. I almost looked at meditation as being punitive. Oh my God, it is so freeing. And after a while, it's like working out. The body says, let's go work out. The soul is saying, let's go get quiet. And 5 minutes became 7 minutes, became 8 minutes. And then I didn't need a timer because the soul took over. See, I can seek the blessings of God first, or I can seek God and the blessings will always follow me. So I'm seeking God, the desperation of Johnny Man. He said, meditate, this will work. And I did it purely out of desperation, nothing good about me. And somewhere in the 10-minute mark, I didn't need a timer anymore, and 10 became 15, became 20. And there have been times over the years I've sat in meditation for a really long time. Not to outdo anyone because we get taken. And we're refreshed when we're done. And sometimes things happen in the meditation that wouldn't have happened if I didn't meditate. There have been a handful of literally life-changing experiences because of meditation. The thing I need to clarify is I did 1 through 9. My past was in a nice, neat box now. It wasn't dictating what I do currently. I wasn't listening to old voices to determine what I do now. So it was kind of freer and lighter. And I had an active 10-step. So 11 was like very fertile ground. And when the ground's fertile enough, God will give us something to grow with. Sometimes we don't want to go into meditation because we might get something that we don't want to look at. In the sacred silence, anything's possible. Something may come to me that, hey, I'm still doing this, and that's not okay anymore. This needs to change. I've often joked, will come to me and say, I got some old behavior going on. If you're doing it now, it's not old behavior. It's very current behavior. And sometimes I don't want to go in there to that very sacred place. The other thing I like to do is commune. That happens sometimes during the day or when I'm done with prayer and meditation. Commune, just being alone with God. I don't have to say anything. Just in the silence, just be with God. I'm up, eyes are open. I'm out of the meditation posture. I'm sitting at my desk chair in my house. And sometimes I'm watching, little squirrels playing outside. And some of these little blue jays floating around. I just taken in by that. If I have fidelity to the practice, I will experience God's fidelity to me. If I'm faithful to the practice, I will experience the practice enriching my life. But I need to have one, whatever that might be. And this is my daily routine. Now, what has happened over the years is I've reincorporated reading, but it's really minimal. It's after I'm done with prayer and meditation, and I have a few minutes. There's 2 books that I pick up, and I read a little bit. There's a couple of pages, and then I'm done. Most of my reading is after I have coffee, because that's when I start to have coffee, after I'm done with prayer and meditation, and I have some free time. That's when I'm gobbling up books pretty much all day long, except for when I'm at work. I'm either listening or reading something. Now, I've shared this a few times. I'm not trying to be controversial. There's a handful of folks I listen to. One of them is I still listen to Marion's sponsor, Polly Pistol. I think she's just the best. My sponsor and a couple of sponsors, grand sponsors in my lineage. I still listen to these men regularly. They speak to my soul. Most of what I read and most of what I listen, we would call non-conference approved literature. And it's religious, it's pastors, it's bishops in the Catholic Church, because for some reason what they're saying speaks to this, and it sounds right, it feels right. And I have my AA folks that I go to. I've studied comes of age over and over again. I'm never an expert in history, but I know about that stuff. I like gobbling that stuff up. But for the sacred practice in the morning, that's pretty much what I do. I don't burn sage anymore. If I burn sage, it's because I feel like it in the house for a spiritual cleansing, but it's not part of my morning meditation. And I kind of enjoy that, how we get to evolve in this. We have new wrinkles. Things work for us. Some things don't work for us. The truth is true until we discover a new truth. So what worked for me when I had 1 year, not that it was wrong, but it's kind of falling short. I need a little bit more. I need to be more involved. 2 minutes of meditation or more won't feed me. You know, if I was a little kid, a mama feed me with a little baby spoon, a little jar of baby food, and I'm full. If I had that now, it would never work. I need more. And the thing, what I like to do is give it away, all of it. Whatever I've been given, I need to give away. I'm trying to do that right now because it begets more. But that's not the motive. It's just who we become. If I want mercy, I need to give mercy. If I want to experience love, I need to give love. If I want friends, I need to be a friend. If I want to be forgiven, I need to be forgiven. St. Francis talks about this. I can't expect you to show up and give me all of this and I'm not giving anything back. When we get transformed, it's the way we be now. We have to be merciful. We have to be forgiving. We have to be loving. We're a friend to folks. We have our hands extended. I'm not on my cell phone when somebody's speaking at a meeting. That's rude. We've awakened. And what am I going to do with this? I continue to participate, cooperate, and cultivate. Incorporating new stuff, listening to different religious folks, talking about it, not apologizing for God. I never want to get to his pearly gates and he says, I never knew you. I gave you 1,000 opportunities to talk about me and you look the other way. There's something in Scripture that says, do not conform to the ways of the world, but rather be transformed in your mind. Imagine conforming to the planet the way it is right now because it might be fashionable. God's a 4-letter word out there. I don't want to conform to that. I don't want to conform to the social mores out there right now. It's bizarro land. What I want to do is be transformed in the mind and get in line with God. When I was a kid growing up, the older guys, and even my dad would say, if we were misbehaving, hey, you're out of line. That means you're going to get in trouble. You're saying something or doing something, you're going to get in trouble. And it was a warning, you're out of line. When it comes to God, I can't get out of line with God. He's not going to punish me, but I can't hear him anymore. I need to be in line with God. Practice fidelity to God, put nothing before God. I'd rather bear the pain of waiting for God than bear the pain of going on without God. And the great thing about having faith, the great thing about having faith, it brings an end to needing to understand. I don't need a spreadsheet. I don't have to defend it. Someone says, I don't believe in God. You're crazy for believing in God. Okay, I'm crazy. Have a great day. I'm not going to negotiate that. I'm not going to debate that. I've been around atheists. They're always angry. I don't know why they don't like believers. You don't believe, I believe. Let's go have coffee. What's the problem? But when it comes to faith, I don't need to defend and I don't need an explanation. On a religious angle, and I'm not trying to break your tradition. I remember a guy coming up to me, he says, do you believe in the resurrection, the virgin birth? I said, yeah. He says, it's impossible. For you it is. For me it isn't. What else do you want to talk about? That's the end of the conversation. Now, if he said, can you teach me? Can you show me? I'll spend all day with that guy. But I'm not going to get it. God doesn't need me to do that. He doesn't need defending. He don't even write inventory, last I heard. And I get up off the mat, I have some coffee, and I like to see what's going on in the world for a couple of minutes. I don't spend much time on the news anymore. It's too crazy. I love reading that. When I was a kid, we used to have the daily news and a cup of coffee, and I can tell you everyone's batting average. I still love reading the sports page. I just do it online now. see how my New York Giants are screwing it all up again. You know, I do that and get aggravated. I have to write resentment inventory. And then I start my day pretty much at that point. And this is what goes on in Peter's house. 7:30, I bring Marion coffee. I do chores around the house in the morning. So,
she was cheering you on.
I do chores in the house. So when my wife wakes up, she doesn't have to do them. So I do all that stuff in the morning. And depending on what time I have to be at work, I get prepped for work. Try to squeeze a workout in if I can. Do something. Sometimes I don't. Depends how I feel. I'm not going to hold myself over, hot coals because I miss one of those things. I worked out in the spiritual gym. I'm good for the day. The other thing I do is, as I go through the day, it's about turning in order to turn out. I turn in order to go out. I turn in order to go out. If I don't turn in, I'll go without. So throughout the day, I'm turning in. Have you ever been in a conversation with someone and they're saying stuff that's not really so nice or kind, or they're just acting out? As you're talking to them, you're kind of removed for a moment, and you're, okay, God, what do I do about this? I'm having a conversation with God while you're speaking to me. That's turning in order to go out. And practicing pause. My sponsor, Mark Houston, had us work with the word pause for 6 months. That's your new assignment. Meditate and pray on the word pause and practice throughout the day. Before you speak, pause. Before you do something, pause. Watch what happens. He was right. We prayed and meditated on the word Our Father in the Lord's Prayer, our sacred Lord's Prayer. That's what your assignment is. Our Father, and go into meditation with it. He was right. And where a lot of the practice, I've sponsored enough people over the years, I've heard the stories where the practice gets anemic is at night, when we retire at night. Most of us are busy during the day. Tonight's a late night. Meeting breaks up at 9:30. By the time you get home, it might be 10:30, 10 o'clock. If you go out to eat, it's a late night. Who wants to pray and meditate? But that's what my book says to do. If I want to get the benefits of the book, I need to follow the prescription. It's the treasure map. I'm not going to get to the treasure if I don't follow the map. Now, there's been times I've landed in Fort Lauderdale Airport after traveling for the weekend. Even if it's a wonderful, great conference, you're exhausted flying, and you get to Fort Lauderdale Airport, which is kind of icky. It's 11:30 at night on a Sunday. I'd rather be home. And you get down there, and by the time your luggage comes out, it's Tuesday. I get my luggage, and the drive home. When I lived in Boca, it was a longer drive. Now it's a quick drive. And all I want to do, I want to get home to Marion. If she's not traveling with me, I want to get home to Marion. I want to shower and get the plane off of me. I want to have something to eat or go to bed. I'm tired. Especially if I did a workshop all by myself. I'm pretty drained at that point. And I want to go to sleep. I don't need to pray. It's 1 o'clock in the morning. I just did a whole workshop. I did a Friday, Saturday, and Sunday morning. Do I really need to pray? And meditate after that? I'll be done at 1:30 in the morning. I have to go to work. You know how God interrupts a lot of things? You hear this. How was your weekend? Travel safe? I gave you words to speak. Your belly worked good this weekend? You didn't get sick to your belly? Your back was working pretty good? You clarity of mind? You met some new friends? I got you home to your wife who's waiting for you. You got 10 minutes for me? To say thank you? So you know what you do. You go make some prayer time. And maybe my meditation isn't 20 minutes or 15 minutes, but I'll sit. We got a little prayer. I go sit now. And just be quiet. Most of my prayers are for other people. I will tell you that I've learned. If I'm in God's presence, I'm being given that spirit to God. God needs boots on the ground. I'm a soldier. That's what I do. I don't spend much time praying for me. When I had this heart thing going on, I was praying for the doctors that they have a good day when they're treating me. I prayed for health. Because I don't want to be away from my wife. I don't want that day to happen. But I pray for people. My brother has Parkinson's, and he's got some major surgery. They're going to put these implants in his brain to reduce the shaking, and it's pretty successful, but it's basically brain surgery. He's got 3 surgeries to do, and he spent 4 hours in it. They put him to sleep in this 4-hour MRI to look at the mapping of the brain to make sure it's precise. So I've been praying for my brother. My other brother has a severe bipolar. I pray for him every morning. You know, my dad's gone home to God, but I still pray for my dad. And there's some people I pray for forgiveness, which is why I wanted to go with this, forgiveness. And I don't pray for forgiveness like, God, I forgive Joe as long as he keeps behaving. I forgive Joe and accept him for who and what he is. I forgive Mary and accept them for who and what they are. It's none of my business. So I pray for a lot of people in the morning. I pray for the suffering in the world because there's a lot of it right now. There's a lot in our own country. There's a lot of anger going on. So I pray. Prayers are powerful. I may not see the fruits of my prayers an hour after I pray, but guess what? I'm in Alcoholics Anonymous because of a lot of other people praying for me. So I pray. I plant the seeds, God does the growing, doctor does the surgery, God does the healing. That's my job. Boots on the ground, soldier for God. I pray. So that's what I do. I pray for my wife. I pray for her family. Her son just got sober. I pray. This guy would be a powerhouse in Alcoholics Anonymous. A monster. He just got sober. So every morning I pray for Brandon to let him continue to follow the light. Yeah. Prayers work.
Amen.
At night, I don't do any reading. I do most of my reading during the day, but I do get some prayer and meditation time. I always do. They also talk about a review. I do a lot of what we call 10 steps in our program. And I do still very disciplined to that life of writing the 10 steps out. That's how we were taught to do them. For my very first sponsor, all my sponsors, we write out this 10 steps. Not everyone writes it out, which gives me a lot less writing to do at night. But if something is troubling me, I will put it on paper. There's a whole bunch of questions in the 11th step. They're not there to fill up a page. They're there to keep me accountable and see what corrective measures I can take into the next moment, the next hour, the next morning. I don't want to wake up to 12 and 12 says with the emotional hangover. On Wednesday morning, I wake up with Tuesday all over me. I can't do that. I can't afford the plaque on the soul. Quick story. I watched my dad get sick. And, the hope he'll bounce back. He's a strong man. And he wasn't. And at the very end, I remember one of my last conversations with him. My dad was 85, and he said to me, "It went so fast." 85, it went so fast. And I through the power of prayer, I got power. I got empowered to walk into a room and hold my dad, who felt like skin and bones. He was down to 115 pounds. In his heyday, he went about 6'1", 220. And it was killing me to see this. But God empowered me, my brothers, my wife. And my sponsor said, God's going to give you that to empower them. You need to be the strong one. You'll weep. You'll do that. And so God presented this environment for me and my dad to experience probably our last intimate moment. And he was in this hospital, and it reminded me of something that happened to me in June 23rd, 1988. My dad found me in the street, and when I collapsed in his arms, he put his hands under my arms and held me up. Now I was done. And the last time I got to see my dad, he was sitting in the wheelchair, and he was embarrassed to call the orderly in. I think that's what they call him, the orderly.
Yep.
And he says, "Do me a favor, just lift me and put me in bed. I'm tired." And so I did. And I leaned over and I realized my hands went under his arms. And he held on to me. It's exactly what he did for me in 1988. And I did my best to tuck him in. I made a few jokes about getting lucky with one of the nurses tonight. Maybe you could do that, just something to kind of break the tension. And my dad was falling asleep, and I made a prayer. I gave him a kiss on the lips, and it was the last time I saw him. Yes. I spoke to him once after that, and I remember him telling me, I'm so tired. And naturally, well, it's okay, you'll be better tomorrow, and he passed. But prayer allowed me to do something like that.
That's what we do.
To walk with grace and dignity in a very difficult situation. And when my dad passed, my sponsor says, you go be there for your family now. And he reminded me, you'll weep when it's time. But you go be there for your family. And I was hopefully able to do that. We prayed in front of my dad's coffin, while everyone was watching us. I don't care, I'm praying. I'm not looking for a spotlight, it's what God wants me to do. Lastly, I was in not a blackout, I was in a really bad way, living in this apartment before I got thrown out. I was sitting on the edge of the bed in a crying jack, blind drunk, screaming at God with every four-letter word you could think of, yeah? And I was screaming at God because I felt like when he took my mom from me, I didn't get a chance to say goodbye, and I felt like I got ripped off. Nothing I was doing was making sense. And I remember in these four-letter rants, screaming at God, if you're God, you're a big shot, you bring my mom down from heaven, whatever the heck that is, you let her hug me and I'll quit drinking. I'm trying to negotiate a deal with God. Well, obviously that didn't happen. I get sober in 1988. There's a difference between motivation and being called. Motivation wanes every once in a while. Like you'll see everyone in the gym on January 2nd. And by February 2nd, they're not there anymore. Called is something different. And I start going to church, not Mass. I go to Mass now and again, but I get called just to go to church, so participate, cooperate, and cultivate. And I'm lighting 2 candles, one for the sick and suffering in and out of rooms, and one for my mom who apparently went to heaven, whatever that is. Once a week, faithfully. I'm not lying. Once a week, sometimes twice a week, but every single week, whatever day it was, I walk into church, light 2 candles, make prayer, sick and suffering in and out of rooms, my mom, get quiet, and then leave. Once a week. 9 years sober now. And I go into meditation. And my life changed. And in this meditation is a part of meditation that we know we're meditating, and it's a part of meditation where we know we're done meditating, and sometimes right in the middle we get taken. Beyond this, we become part of whatever's happening. And we're not thinking about AA, we're just taken to another place. You can't make that happen. Just the grounds for it, and God says, now, he's always speaking to us. He knows when the heart hurts, he knows when it's heavy. I just need to ask him and be still and wait. So 9 years into praying, now I'm working with the sponsor. I'm meditating and praying every morning, every night, reading spiritual books. I'm doing this. The ground I didn't know was fertile enough for God. And in this meditation, I find myself sitting on the beach. I'm about 8 years old. When I was 8 years old, I was being molested by somebody. My mom was in and out of the psych ward. My dad was really, really tough with me back then. It was old school. We're on fireside chats and how do you feel today, buddy? It wasn't like that. And off on the horizon, I see the carpenter walking towards me, and out of his chest appears my mom in this meditation. My sponsor later explained to me that signifies oneness with the Lord. Yeah? And when she got to me, she kneeled down on one knee. And she gave me a hug, the one I was asking for. I've shared this a million times. Guys, I speak to the guys now, when you're 8 years old, 10 years old, and mama hugs you, you're gold. Nothing can touch you. Not when you're in mama's arms. And I stood up and I became an adult, and my mom hugged me as a young man again. The carpenter put his arm around my shoulder and went eye to eye. Nothing was spoken through this whole meditation. And he said, without saying a word, she's okay, she's with me. And then my mom pointed off the horizon this way. She pointed at hundreds of flickering lights. And then she pointed that way and pointed at hundreds of flickering lights. She held on to me once more. And her and the carpenter walked away. They became one. And I came out of meditation. When I came out of meditation, I didn't even know I was weeping. Her tears were those of joy, and my tears were confusion, really. I didn't know what to make of any of this. So what do? You call your sponsor. I says, here's what just happened. And he said, that coming out of his chest, that's oneness. That's what we're looking for. We're all part of him. Whatever your God is. I said, what about the flickering light she pointed to? And my sponsor said to me, haven't you been lighting candles for your mom for about 9 years? I said, yeah. He says, she let you know she got them. And I was turned at that moment. I completely turned. Knowing that I'm known by my Creator became very real. Not up here, but in here. I'm not better than anyone. I'm not special. I never even went to college. I'm no expert. I'm not a model or an example of Christianity or AA. But I'm a soldier for God. I chop wood and carry wood. And he says, with his great love and his great mercy, this is a riddle in your life. I'm going to answer it for you right now in the sacred silence. We're going to darkness to see and silence to hear. I've never been the same. And God wasn't done with me. Because I've had things like that happen to me. What if I didn't meditate? What if I didn't follow what the book says in step 11? What if I didn't do what the first 9 proposals talk about? I would have missed all of it. And I'd be sitting around in AA if I was sober, jammed up with life circumstances, because life becomes my master again. I watch what my wife does in the morning with reading and praying and meditating. And then when we're done with that, I usually sit next to her, and she calls it as Pete sees it. And I tell her about the problems in the world, how I'm going to fix them by Monday. And what a way to start the day. Some of the things that have happened to me. And God doesn't say, I'm going to give to you, but not to you. We're all equal in his eyes, and that's a beautiful thing. So my 11th step has become incredibly important. And God willing, I'll be here next week, talk about 12. That's all I got, Pete.